I'm so sorry. Okay, so now you're live.
Okay. All right, we are now calling the meeting to order. We are now calling the meeting to order. The time is now 7:13. I want to welcome everyone for coming this evening to the joint meeting of the ULURP and Housing Committees for Community Board 9. My name is Fred Baptiste. I am the chair of Brooklyn Community Board 9. This evening, I am serving as acting chair for the Housing Committee. The Housing Chair, Erin Mazursky, is not able to be with us this evening, but otherwise she is here. And you'll see that one of the items on the agenda this evening is we will actually be electing a vice chair for the committee who will be able to stand in on other occasions if the chair is absent as well, which is common practice for the I also would just like to, if the land use chair can introduce herself as well.
Hi, I'm Suki Chung. I'm the land use chair.
All right. And actually, you know, we'll have committee members introduce themselves as well, just so that we can see because we have a lot of members.
I'm Josh Serrano, Land Use Committee member.
John Wolfling, I am a resident advisor for the committee.
What does that mean?
I don't have any voting privileges, I believe that's the way it works. Right?
I mean, you're on the committee, so.
Okay, all right. I'm on the committee. Okay. I'm John Fraser, I'm a resident member of the ULURP.
Nicola Cox, a resident member of the Land Use Committee.
Land Use Committee.
Esteban Huron, Land Use Committee.
Other committee members who are seated, housing committee members as well, if you're, please. Yes.
Hi everyone, I'm Brittany Ellington on the Housing Committee.
I'm Cheryl Bernard, I'm on the Land Use Committee.
Yes.
I'm Teresa Westerville. I'm on the ULURP committee, Land Use. And I'm a board member.
Diane Shepherd, and I'm housing resident member.
All right. Is that all we have for committee members? Yes.
Janice Branham, housing resident member.
All right. Are there any other committee members?
I'm in the community, and I live in the 11225.
You're in the right place.
Okay.
Welcome. So yes, so those are all of our committee members, and welcome to all who have joined us for this evening. So again, this is going to be a joint meeting of the Land Use and Housing Committees. Per our bylaws, we have a number of standing committees, of which housing and land use are two, to make sure that the correct information is there. They are not a merged committee. So they are deciding issues that are to their, respective to each of their committees. But one of the things that we're doing this year, which is something we've done with other committees, and specifically with another committee, Education Library, along with Youth Services, is we found that there were a lot of areas overlapped, and there were a lot of common conversations. So what we're trying this year is we are having land use and housing meet together, because we think that there are a lot of things in terms of the conversation that should happen together, and we found it's just hard to say, it's been difficult to say, go off somewhere and collaborate and take extra time. So what we're trying to do is have everybody in the room so we can cross-pollinate wherever possible. So I want to welcome everyone. I want to thank the committee members for embarking on this experiment. Part of the intention is, at another point during the year, we'll look at it and we'll see how it works, or if it doesn't work, and that's okay. Move on from there. We'll see how we proceed. Yes. So.
What areas of both committees overlap?
Well, I think when you're looking at land use, especially if you're looking at affordable housing, what is affordable housing? I think that those are both questions that land use and housing would actually look at. So I think it's useful for both of them to be in the room. So if we're talking about or evaluating projects or the way zoning is set up, it's good for the both of them to be in the room. So that way they have that conversation and we don't have to say, well, listen, we'll talk to housing at another point and have to set up time in that sense. So at least that's some of what the idea is with that. And again, this is going to be an experiment, so we're going to see how that works as well in terms of how successful it is. Ms. Western.
I don't think that these two committees should be combined together. I think housing has a lot of its own work to do, and that ULURP has its other work to do. And that is initially, especially the meetings, everybody should be getting together, nominating their chair, co-chair, whatever they need to do, treasurer, secretary, all that needs to be done separately, and people need to establish their plan for the year, go over it, to know each other, and combining these two together is not fortuitous for the board or the community, and I believe there's another reason why this is happening and why you're dominating the meeting.
Thank you very much. And I would just ask if we can I'll tell you what, because we do have, it is set up as a joint meeting for today, and as you can see, there are plenty of items on it. So if I could ask if we can hold questions, and even if we can reserve judgment on that, see where we go. This is not going to be perfect or smooth all the way through. I think we'll have opportunities. Ms. Westerdahl, please. And we'll actually get to that point in a minute. We'll get to that point where we'll have these conversations, but for this evening, the main thing is we want to ensure that we address our
So
agenda.
this is your idea all by
Ms.
yourself?
Westerdahl, please, you're out of order.
I just have one question.
Ms. Graham will take a question in a moment.
I just want to know, is this a legitimate meeting? Because the bylaws that I've written, they don't really show the merging. And
Exactly.
also the housing committee has never met separately. So
Right.
now we're merging?
There is no merge.
This is merging.
Well,
Tell me
okay.
what this meeting is,
Okay.
to clarity. Because I was at the meeting in September.
Correct.
I looked for the footage from that.
Right, there was no footage captured for that. But again, just to make sure that we're
Why
clear.
not?
Why is that?
I just need clarity.
Right. No, and just to make sure, and I understand, this is new.
Nothing illegal, there's nothing illegal.
There's
stuff
nothing
in
illegal,
the-
and I want to be very clear to make sure this is on the record. There is nothing illegal and nothing new about committees meeting jointly. So what we're doing this year is having the committee meet jointly as we
This is a
can.
lot of talking.
Ms.
Let's move on to
Westerdahl,
business.
this is not going to work if we're yelling out. Okay? And
3 minutes.
it's not going to work if we're doing this. So to the point, we're meeting jointly. The agendas will be separated to the extent necessary. So you will notice on the agenda for this evening, there are a couple items for landmarking, which will be reviewed by housing. And there will be a vote. When that vote happens, that is housing committee members that are doing it. And as we proceed in the agenda, you will have issues that are going to be done by the land use committee, and the land use members, if there's a quorum for that, they will handle those agenda items. AC discussion items that are going to be mixed, where both committees are going to be doing that. But that's how we're working, at least going forward. And again, I mean, I think that what we're looking for is that feedback. So if it's not working, or if we need to tweak it, absolutely, please feel free to help or the executive committee know, so we can watch out for that, or the chairs, especially the chairs, to let them know where we need to kind of improve or where we need to tweak. Okay? So I thank everyone for that. Before, we kind of got to move on, and I do need a couple things.
No, let's-
Okay, hold on. And I see this is the necessary part of it. We're going to go over the rules of conduct. So, the rules of order for community board meetings, New York City Community Board 9, Brooklyn. This meeting, New York City Community Board 9, Brooklyn, is called to order under the full statutes of New York State, the New York City Charter, bylaws of Brooklyn Community Board 9, Robert's Rules of Order. All community board meetings shall be conducted pursuant to the New York State Public Officers Law, the New York City Charter, the Open Meetings Law, and any other applicable law. The community board bylaws shall govern meetings where they do not conflict with applicable laws. Rules of order shall govern the meeting where they do not conflict with applicable laws and the bylaws. Okay? All community board members shall be provided a reasonable opportunity to address the community board on any matter of the board or any matter that pertains to the board's mission. In general board meetings, members of the public may be allowed to speak during a portion of the meeting designated as the public comment session. Subject to any modifications and guidelines established by the chair of the board or his or her designee, each public speaker shall sign in and give a brief description of what she will comment prior to speaking. Excuse me. The public speakers will be allotted a time limit of 3 minutes, each from the beginning of each of the speaker's remarks. Time cannot be shared or allotted to a specific. If the chair or his or her designee determines that there is not sufficient time meeting, the public comment session of the period may be deferred to either the end of the general board meeting or the beginning of the next general board meeting. Public comment period shall be 30 minutes in duration. Okay. Now, this is important, more critical for this meeting. During general board meetings and committee meetings, collectively board meetings, and outside of the public session, portions of the meetings, members of the public may ask questions and comment upon agenda items only when recognized by the chair, the committee chair, designee. Okay? We want to hear as many voices as possible. That's why we encourage participation. But we can't have it free for all. We can't have everyone yelling and screaming for it. Please raise your hand. If it is possible at that time appropriate, we will recognize you and you will have your opportunity to ask your question or give your comment. The only thing I will say is please make sure you keep those brief. All board members and members of the public shall conduct courteous, professional, and orderly manner. Obscene, threatening, or harassing language, slander, threats of violence, personal attacks of any kind, or offensive comments that target or disparage any ethnic, racial, age, or religious group, gender, sexual orientation, or disability status are prohibited. We're here, let's just be respectful. We don't need this, okay? And I would just ask that even in disagreement, we still withhold and we let somebody finish their thought, and we relinquish the floor at the appropriate time and let other people speak. There are a lot of people here, and I know that there are thoughts and comments, so we want to make sure we're able to accommodate those. So please make sure you mind that. No members of the public shall display signs or placards in a disruptive manner, disruptively applaud, participate in debate, or engage in disorderly conversation or other disorderly behavior which may disrupt the meeting. Audio and video recordings of board meetings are permitted unless they interfere with the meetings. In accordance with the Open Meetings Law, the recording must be conducted from a fixed location and in a manner which does not interfere with the meeting. The chair or his or her designee shall have the discretion to prohibit audio recording that interferes with the meeting. Recording is not permitted during the executive session. Any board member or member of the public who uses obscene, threatening, or harassing language, slander, threats of violence, personal attacks of any kind, or offensive comments that target or any ethnic, racial, age, or religious group, gender, sexual orientation, or disability status, or who otherwise becomes disorderly while at a board meeting, shall be removed from the board meeting discretion of the chair or his or her designee. No board member or member of the public shall be permitted to speak on a cellular phone during a community board meeting while the meeting is in progress, other than for emergency reasons. All telephones will be turned off or on vibrate mode. So we would just ask, because those are distractions, if you have to take a call, if you have to have a conversation, just please step to the side and you can do that as well, just that way the meeting will be continued. During general board meetings, the enforcement of this code are conducted under the direction of the chair or his or her designee. During committee meetings, the enforcement of the code of conduct will be conducted by the committee chair or his or her designee. New York City Police Department and building security may assist with the ejection of any individual from a board meeting or committee meeting for violating code. That is the ominous end of that. But ultimately, what we are asking for is we are here because we have issues and conversations that we have to have as a community board and through the various committees. We welcome everyone to what their viewpoints are, because, and even if they're different, what happens after that is that difference is where we're going to actually grow as a community board and hopefully be able to develop some solutions. It's not always easy, but we can do it. But again, it all means that we have to make sure that we are respectful of the space. Okay? I thank everyone in advance for that, for in adherence to the rules. Okay.
Brett, can I get a copy of the bylaws in the Robert's Rule?
We can do that. We'll make sure that we get a copy.
And is there a section that you can read that explains that this is, from what I'm hearing, it's not something that was done before? Is there a part that you can read that shows that this is okay to do, to combine the two?
There's not, well, here's the thing again. There's not a combination of committee meetings. Meetings can happen jointly. As a matter of fact, it happens a lot. So this is one of the first times is West.
When have two committees met together like this? I'm confused. I know two committees have met at the same
I believe
time.
housing and
One in the front, one in the back. And if you have an overlapping
They met-
issue, then you may decide
Okay,
to
no,
meet
okay,
together,
but here's the thing.
but not
But here's the
every
thing.
month.
They have, and it's not every month. Well, no, but here's the thing.
And this is the
The
beginning of the year.
Okay, Ms. Ellis, it hasn't happened, and that's the point we kind of came up from. It hasn't happened. It is not something that is prohibited, strange, or otherwise out of order. So,
Yes, it
Well, the
is.
fact that
Okay.
you guys have so much
Anyway.
business to
Okay,
take
Ms.
care
Ellis,
of,
Ms.
it's
Ellis,
already
Ms. Ellis,
7:30.
Ms. Ellis, Ms. Ellis.
How are
Ms.
you
Ellis.
gonna do
Ms.
both
Ellis.
committees and their
Ms. Ellis,
business
please.
in
No,
one
we need you
session
to-
without going till
okay,
10
okay.
o'clock at night?
This is what we just discussed. Order of the day, not speak until you are recognized by the chair. This is not working. We're gonna keep this. This is not going to work.
Suki's the chair, not you.
Okay, no, I am the housing chair. I'm the chair of housing, and we are at that stage of the agenda. Thank you, Ms. Westerdahl. You are out of order. This is my section of the meeting now. Thank you. Okay, so with that, again, thank you, everyone. So now we are now at item for the Housing Committee agenda. This evening, we have two items. We have Landmark Preservation Commission applications we're going to be reviewing. One is,
Remember,
yes.
Okay. I wasn't here in September, but I heard a lot of concerns. And I, for one, was also concerned
Is
with
this a
it.
question?
Look at, it is.
let her.
It is a motion that I want to put on the floor. Because the land use committee was changed significantly from last year to this year. And it does not reflect the racial makeup of this community. So I would like to put a motion on the floor to reconfigure the land use committee to more closely reflect community that we are supposed to be representing. We have a lot of key issues, and we need to have a community representation that reflects people that actually live in this community.
Very
I
quickly.
second that motion.
See, this is sorry. The motion is out of order because the configuration of the land use is based on the bylaws for CB9.
And
which
it
state-
says that it can be reconfigured.
No,
It says that there can
No.
be changes to the
No,
composition
no.
of the committees.
the membership of the committee is done either by the chair or the committee chair. So I have made my appointments to the committee.
I'm
Happens
asking
after,
for it to be revisited.
the answer is no.
Why?
Because
Why isn't Suki
we're
as the
not,
chair
we're
of the
not going to
committee?
go, okay, no. Your motion has been ruled out. We are continuing. Thank you.
How is it out of order?
Because it is contrary to the bylaws of C9, which state the membership is decided by the chair or the committee chair.
I second motion.
There is no second because it's out of order. Anyway, we are now continuing. We have two land use
Article 8
preservation.
states
We
that
have
you can
Ms.
have
Ellis, you are now out.
reappointing.
Ms. Ellis, you are out of order.
I don't know, you
You
seem
are
to be out of order,
order.
Fred, because it
You are out of order,
says
Ms.
that you
Ellis.
can reappoint members into the
Ms.
committees.
The chair and the chair and the committee chair.
And
Right.
and here you
all I'm
both
asking
are.
is for
And
that
here we both are.
revisited.
And I am not doing that, and we are not doing that here because
I'm not asking for it to be done here. I'm asking for it to be revisited and that we have a committee that more closely reflects.
and
the
your
racial
comment is taken.
composition.
The motion is out of order. Your comment is taken. Thank you. All right, so we now have two landmarks preservation committee applications for 25 Maple Street, and we have for 203 Maple. Yes, Ms. Ray.
Is there supposed to be, in that housing is supposed to make on this, there have to be a quorum in order to make it approved?
There has to be,
So is there a quorum on housing or
and we
quorum
are,
on?
well, here's what's gonna happen. We allow for the presentations to happen, and we will see when we get to the vote portion, if there is not a quorum, it gets tabled.
So you don't do that from the beginning?
Say it again?
You don't do that for me?
We can get the information we need for informational purposes from the beginning. So we can hear the presentation, and when we get to that section, if there's not a quorum present.
You don't want to waste time if there's no quorum. If there's no quorum and you're in the presentation and cannot vote, then what happens? It gets put in the next meeting? So wouldn't you decide whether there's a quorum first before we hear out everything? That would be logical?
We can, but usually we typically not, but you know what, we can do that.
What
And
does Robert's rules? Because I am not going to be here
Robert's
until
rules.
11 o'clock.
Robert's rules says that we cannot vote without a quorum. We can
Right.
hear information.
But if we
can
hear
receive information. Yes.
and if we know there's no quorum, and we hear information and cannot vote, then we waste time. In light of the fact that there's also,
Fair enough.
right?
That's,
Is there a quorum?
I'm sorry? These have already been held off because I think we haven't even touched them from before. So we will,
Can you confirm, is one of these an application and one is a presentation, correct?
two of them are applications, so they will present to us. So one has a they will show to us. The other applicant will tell us what's on the application and explain if we have an opportunity. But to the, okay. I'm sorry?
So what you doing there? You're
Well,
reading.
we will do this. Let's do this first. Let me call the roll. Let's see if we actually do have it. Okay. Augustine Blackwell. Brittany Ellington.
Here.
Thank you. Candace Edwards. Edwards? Thank you. Diane Shepherd.
Here.
Thank you. Aaron Mazursky is out. Janice Granum.
Here.
Thank you. Brunisha LaBarry. Brunisha LaBarry. Unilla Rowan Perry. She's absent. And I apologize. Yeshayahu Gangsberg. Yeshayahu Gangsberg.
There's no quorum. Janice is ready.
I ain't gonna be here till 11 o'clock.
All right. To the point, I'm not laboring the point. Typically, we would hear from the applicant, so that way we do get that information because they showed, and we usually do not penalize them for that. but that is fair. We can, due to the fact that so to the applicants who are here for, well, actually, here's what we'll do. Here's what we're going to do. As we do not have quorum now, we are going to move on in the agenda. And when we reach the end of the agenda, we will see if they have arrived, and if they have arrived at that point, we will entertain the presentation in the motion. So at this time, since we do not have that, we are going to now turn it over to the land use chair, and the land use portion will continue, and then we'll come back at the end.
Yay.
Actually,
Thank you, Jan.
you guys print up yeah, at least 20. If you
Yes. So because we have one yet, we're gonna give a little time.
So I think I'm gonna let all of the members just introduce themselves very briefly. Can I start to my left?
Sure, happy to. Again, Serrano. I'm a new board member. I joined it, I guess, this spring. This is first time joining as a land use committee member. I've always had an interest in housing. Right now, I currently work at the Mayor's Office for Economic Opportunity. None of work intersects with anything that is sort of dealing with the Department of Planning, land use, etc. But my work is anti-poverty work. And that's sort of been a connecting tissue to a bunch of different things that I've done in my career. So I don't want to take up too much time. Really excited to be joining this committee and digging into this kind of work.
do you live in the community? Where do you live?
I live in, I guess it would be Prospect Lefferts. I live on Fenimore. So.
John?
My name is John Wolfling. I used to be a community board member. My term ended, so I thought I was actually a tribute to the conversations that were happening in the land use committee. So I put in an application to become a resident advisor, and I was accepted in that role. I do think I have a background that is relevant to ULURP and land use committee topics. I'm an architect. I'm very familiar with the zoning resolution. If you look at my firm's work, Datner Architects, we do a great deal of affordable housing, things that I specialize in. And when I say affordable, I mean affordability that is incorporated to our neighborhood and many others. The work that I do is not the 130 AMI. I know I'm speaking in abbreviations now, but I think many of you know this. My work is for affordable housing nonprofit developers, FIPS houses, ICL, supportive housing providers, WISFISH. So I work for these not-for-profits, mission-driven clients primarily. So for those of you that might be suspicious of me and my background and why I'm coming to this, I actually feel very important. It feels very important for someone like me to be part of this community and this discussion so that I can advise from a technical perspective. So view me not suspiciously, view me by the work that I've done. Look at my website, look at what we've done. Look at my firm's body of work. If you can ask me a question maybe later, I should cede to John. Great.
Thank you, John. My name is John Craver. I'm a community resident member. I live on Midwood Street, a few blocks down in PLG. I've been on the committee, I think, for like 5 or so years. Kind of lost track. I am also an architect by training and profession. I do not deal with community housing. My focus has been more on commercial development. So right now there's very little, almost zero work involved in New York City at all. So nothing involving community boards, so there's no overlap or anything that would be a conflict of interest on my part. I have an interest in urban planning and urban development and supporting communities as well. So looking forward to put some of my knowledge and expertise developing flow conversation.
And you also left the garden?
I am, yes. I am as well.
All three of you left the garden?
Just, go forward.
I am Nicola Cox. I am been a member of the community for all of my life. PS 92. I had my grandmother living on Lincoln Road. I'm currently president of the Sullivan London Stoddard Neighborhood Association, so we're on the other side of Empire Boulevard. And I have been a member of the Land Use Committee since 28 years. So I have developed an interest and understanding of zoning affects our area. Dug deep in City of Guest last year, and want to continue to advocate for our community, because while we want affordability, we want to maintain the affordability of this and make sure that we don't have anything predatory happening in terms of city or other rezonings that might be proposed in the area.
Hector Robertson, one-time resident of Crown Heights.
Long-time board member.
Right.
I'm board member.
Hector was a board member before I think most of you were board members.
Yeah.
Esteban?
Hi, I'm Esteban Brun. I live on, resident member of the committee for the last 8 years as well. I live over on Franklin Carroll, and the work that I do is through the Crown Heights Union as a tenant organizer, as well as some political work through the Tenants Political Action Committee. I am here not for housing, but I'm here for tenants, and that's my focus. So you'll hear me talk a lot about how these things affect tenants, how they are affecting tenants, particularly in both regulated and unregulated apartments in the area. So work a lot on policy stuff in Albany. So if you ever have questions about that, I'm happy to chat.
And so Esteban is super knowledgeable, and this is one of the reasons I think that it's good to have housing and ULURP meet together to be able to look at all of this. Teresa?
Hi, everyone. I'm Teresa Westerdahl. I am a new member of the Land Use ULURP Committee. I served on environmental protection for 3 years before this, as a resident member and then as a community board member. And I got involved for this committee every year for 4 years, and I was allowed in this term. I went to a lot of the meetings that Suki had late into the night to learn about the ULURP process. I'm also living in Crown Heights near Nicola, and we're part of this implementation. And I'm very interested in preserving and protecting our zoning and land use and Empire and not being overbuilt, and preserving housing and land for our communities. So thank you for listening to me.
Can we just finish with the introduction? Newest board member, Cheryl Bernard.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cheryl Bernard. I'm a resident of Crown Heights, East Flatbush for 51 years. I own a two-family home. I retired police department after 29 years, where I spent most of my life. And I retired. I'm very thankful that I'm now seeing what's going on and be able to have my voice heard. We live and have a men's shelter corner. We're not far from Kings County. But when I tell you the shelter is, I don't think anyone here has a men's shelter. We have men's shelters, we have halfway houses, it's many things. So I'm here to be a voice for East Flatbush, because you all have no idea what we deal with. So I'm here and I'm hoping to take a stand, and everyone that's here to help and understand. But my two-family house is being threatened by developers. So that's why I'm here to be a voice.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I mentioned before, my name is Suki Chung. I've been coming to the community board meetings here for about the last 10, 12 years now long. I started out first just not as a member of any kind, coming to the meetings as an activist on land use issues like many of you. I was really concerned about out-of-scale development in my neighborhood, about towers, about affordable housing. And, you know, we started to see that this was an issue literally all over the district. I was a resident member for like 3 or 4 years before becoming a full board member, and we were the ULURP committee for a few years before becoming chair last year. A couple people mentioned the City of Yes. Last year, that was a huge thing for us. It was 1,300 pages of zoning text changes. It's still going before the city council, so I urge all of you to get involved. It's going to affect everyone in our district. So that's it, and I'm really looking forward to working with all of you and hearing about all of your concerns and your priorities. So if Mia has brought the updates.
So we have 3 members that are missing, is that correct?
Yeah, actually I should do the roll. Okay, so we have Nicola Brooks, Teresa Westerdahl, here, John Wolfling, Cheryl Bernard, here, John Craver, here, Brittany Ellington, I'm sorry, that's housing, Hector Robertson, here, Esteban Harone, here, Joshua Serrano, Suan Chung, Jakob Berman, he said he was going to be absent, Yisrael Lehrer. Yisrael, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes.
No.
Say hi.
Oh, hi. My name is Israel Lehrer.
Should we find a seat for him?
Yeah, I can stand up and I can stand up.
No, we should bring in a seat.
You know,
You can grab this one. I'll slide back in. You're all fine.
Oh, Fred's gonna.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Israel Lehrer. I'm a board member for the last year plus, and just got placed on this committee, and been a member of resident of Crown Heights for the last 30 plus years, my whole life, and I'm very happy to be part of this board committee and make whatever changes we can make for the positive.
Okay.
What committee were you on to be? Or was it your first year?
Last year I was on public safety.
Okay, and so I did want to tell you guys that I want to introduce Tom Thomas. First of all, he's was a resident member of our committee for many years, very long-time board member. He's the chair of the ULURP committee for what, 20 years, Tom? He resigned after our last meeting. It was a very extremely stressful meeting. I'm very sorry to say, and I don't know if you're going to, you might be coming back to us in some capacity, but you know, we look forward to your sage advice, participation, that's it. I think we only have anybody else?
We have one other person.
Do we have?
Max Davison.
Oh, Max Davison is also, he's excused. I briefly take 2 questions.
I just want to ask one question real quick. I think the gentleman in the green, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
John.
John. You said you were a resident advisor?
That's
What is that as far as a community?
So as I understand it, I can sit on this committee. I guess I have voting privileges on this committee, but when it comes time for board votes, I don't have a vote in those situations.
Just a regular resident.
So, wait, is that an advisor or a resident? Right, are you a resident member or advisor? Because I heard you say the word advisor.
I may be confusing the terms. I'm similar to what Esteban is and Graver.
So you're a community
Yes,
resident?
yes, and I live in the neighborhood, so I've been here for 24 years and
You off when you said advisor. I was
Sorry.
I was like, I don't see that open.
I just want to ask if like everyone on each committee could raise their hand separately. I don't know who's on which one.
Does the housing committee want to introduce themselves? They
We
didn't
did.
get a chance to.
We
Okay.
did.
Okay. All right.
It's only about us here, it's not a quorum.
I guess you wanna raise.
So, we can raise our housing committee here, okay, now it's even less. It's quorum, no quorum.
Okay, well, thank you to everyone who came out to join us. I appreciate it. So updates, we have a lot, big items from last year, most of which are still pending. Mia, where are my copies? Oh, you gave them no, that's not it. Mia, the whole email. Can you print out the whole email? Yeah, the whole email. Thank you. Okay, so the first thing that is 962, 972 Franklin Avenue, aka the Spice Factory. Esteban, do you want to give us an update on that one?
Yeah, could I briefly, yes, the hearings were announced. The 21st is going to be the administration, the agencies, and the 22nd will be the public. Anybody who's interested, there will be a rally beforehand for people in opposition to the city of Yes to the park or on the city hall steps. But yeah, that you'll have an opportunity to do it by Zoom or in person. So they just announced today by the speaker.
That's October 22nd?
Yeah.
Yeah, so super important. Our council members have asked us to come up and testify. If you can't come in person, right, this is really, really important.
They also announced that they will be putting out an addition to the affordability city of Yes and also tenant protections. We have no idea what those are, so that next day.
Okay, great. So Franklin Avenue, as you know, this was the big development by the Botanic Gardens. We're proposing going up to 14 stories from the as of right, which is 7. And this would have cast damaging shadows on the Botanic Gardens' essential nursery activities. And so there was a huge public turnout for this, against this zoning. This area had been given height protections going back to 1991. And so they were seeking to break this. And this board, of course, voted no, that they should go with the existing height limit. And the City Planning Commission ultimately modified the developer's request from a maximum of 14 spaces to like 10, 11-ish, with a circling that they have to like set back the building from the street so that the shadows will be lesser on the garden. But it still includes an affordable housing component, and it's still, I think, a significant number of units. I think it's going to be over 300 units.
Does the reduced height eliminate shading?
No, it does not. And so there are still discussions going on with the attorneys about mitigation. We're not clear what that is. I assume it's money. And the developer has threatened in the press to withdraw their rezone application and just go with the as of right. But we don't know whether or not that's going to happen. There's no official confirmation of that. Does anybody?
Yeah, there's a sale, right? A sale of 9.
Part of it?
Yeah, part of it. One of the lots there. So we just got financing. I think you said
60 Franklin. So there, this is a huge amount of space. And the portion 962, 972 is only like a third of the lot. The other 2/3 of it were sold to other developers building as of right market rate housing. And these lots are so enormous. We're talking about several hundred units, even without an upzoning. So there, and those are going ahead. They've gotten fine construction financing. Does anybody else, Nicola, wanna?
I remember an article where they said they were pulling the plug.
Yeah, that's what they.
I think threat that you mentioned.
Okay.
But it's still
Right, they didn't do it, they haven't done it. Nothing's
Well, it's
done.
funny because what you're saying all along is it's not worth
the extra stuff and qualification and all that, just for like the scrap and affordable. Now they're saying, all right, well, we're gonna just build out right, which is what we're saying.
Right, and so I get waiting for us to say, oh, no, go ahead, build out the rest, because it's not gonna be affordable to the
I do think,
community anyway.
Those are the facts, that they could, right, with no affordability.
But it's not gonna be affordable.
Well, but I'm just thinking that they can either use the underlying zoning and build as of right with whatever AMIs they want, or they could utilize the mentor and community housing program and be obligated to do a certain amount of affordable housing. It may not be as deeply affordable as many people in see, but those are the facts. That's what they can do.
Right, and we know that. It's something that's not unknown.
We don't have any official confirmation that it's not withdrawn or terminated in the zoning application portal. So they're all still negotiating. And that will hit the city council by November 10th. There's not a hearing date listed yet, but there should be a hearing and a vote at the city council November 10th. Okay, so back to City of Yes for housing opportunity. The planning commission voted to move that text amendment forward to the city council with some limited changes, and that you can those detailed in here. Specifically, to the R10 district, to the affordable housing visions for the R10 districts. R10 districts are skyscraper districts that you really only see in downtown Brooklyn and Manhattan, so this is not particularly relevant to our district.
It's completely relevant to our district.
We don't have any R10 zoning.
But we could if we go through with this whole nonsense of City of Yes. Suki, what are you talking about?
We will not have any R10 zoning. It is not changing zoning numbers. It is changing what each zone to.
And it will be a free-for-all for developers.
Okay, so second,
And you guys need to motion back on the floor.
You can comment later. Second, it will be
You guys are not a legitimate
removing
committee.
obstacles. This is the infill proposals. It would be modifying some of the infill proposals in terms of how much space there would be between buildings. Again, campus infill was not the thing that we commented on because we just don't have a lot of those types of campuses. We have one public housing campus that might fit that bill. So this will be forward to the city council with provisions that this board voted against because we believe they would be extremely damaging to the neighborhood in terms of the destruction of the existing buildings, including existing affordable housing, and just the potential to add a level of population density without infrastructure support. So nothing has been changed that would mitigate that at all. So it's really important that you start writing to your council members and lobbying them to vote no. There are, I think, 18 community boards out of the 59 voted yes, 35 voted no, and I guess that leaves about like 10 or 12 that didn't vote. The fact that a majority voted no should tell you that this is something that really, that most of the city is really concerned about because it really completely upends the zoning code in many ways, removing parking requirements, completely changing single-family housing, which, districts that are different than ours are really upset about that. So I urge you to learn as much as you can and write your what else? Okay, so 7399 Empire Boulevard. So as far as we can tell from the environmental assessment statement, the developer is represented by Michael Burfield from Bridges Development Corporation. That to me sounds like the developer, this Bridges Development Corporation. They reached out to the board office through their lobbyist to request a meeting, but they've declined invitation to present to this ULURP committee tonight. That's a bit unfortunate city planning is telling us that it will certify by the end of the month. And pre-certification meetings aren't required under the charter, but they're encouraged by city planning so that the developer can get feedback before finishing their environmental review. Right now it's just an EAS, it's not the final EIS. So this developer, just to remind you all, is requesting a rezone from an R6 with a C13 overlay on the north half of the lot and a C82 on the south half of the lot to a C4 4D on the whole lot. That has residential R8A equivalent, and this would lead to 285 residential units and 100,000 square feet of commercial space, plus 191 parking spaces.
Isn't that a commercial strip out?
That floor building has been vacant for many years. You might remember it was used as an illegal nightclub for a while before I think
It did, and that's why I'm
Beverly shut
asking,
it
that was
down.
a commercial strip there,
Yeah.
between Bedford and Montpelier.
Yeah. It's
So they-
commercial zone.
It's a commercial zone. So they're actually applying to make that a residential zone there?
Well, so the zoning in this area, the front, these are 200-foot deep lots. The front 100 that faces Empire has C8 zoning, which does not permit residential. It permits like commercial kind of like light manufacturing, auto, and just general stuff. And then the back 100 feet is R6 residential zone.
But on that corner, there's a auto body shop, there used to be, and a laundromat. Laundromat goes all the way to the back on Sullivan Place.
Yeah,
So
that
is
was a
that
laundromat
residential
and
corner?
nightclub.
I don't believe it
The nightclub
is.
is further
So,
down.
I believe the residential stops mid-block. At the map?
Let me further explain. The R6.
That wasn't a nightclub, Suki, that was a laundromat for all these years. It was an active laundromat, and the laundromat moved a little
Not
further down the block.
okay, not the building that has the tree growing out the front.
No, the nightclub was
never-
further down.
It was further
The
down
building
next
that
to the
has the tree
warehouse.
growing out the front was never a laundromat.
No, the one right next to it though was a laundromat.
And that had, yes, that is,
The nightclub is further down, I think,
It's
it's an address.
It's closer to
It's closer to
the
Bedford.
storage
The
unit,
storage warehouse, next door to the
and it
store.
wasn't illegal.
yeah, that might
Talking
be,
about the
but
space
this
across from-
particular building has been vacant, for, I mean, at least a decade, I don't.
No.
It's on the
No,
corner of
it used to be a
McKeever.
laundromat,
It was a
and then
back
the laundromat
Yeah.
over.
For many years, very
There was-
recently
there
it
was
was
a store that was
vacated.
gonna move there.
I'm looking at Street View on Google Maps, and in 2016, it's laundromat in November,
Yeah.
and a year later, it is a vacant.
Then the next one.
Somebody was gonna take
The
that
one
lot.
with the tree growing out the front?
Yeah.
That's a different, that's the
Yeah.
one next
So
door.
sorry.
No,
The one right
Teresa,
on the
that's
corner
not
of
the site that we're
McKeever.
talking
It's
about.
on one of McKeever.
Isn't this the
and
McKeever
Empire.
lot?
7399 is that giant lot
I agree.
plus the laundromat.
So,
Is this on the corner, the corner of McKeever,
Yes.
Empire, and Sullivan, right? It's the end of the block.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the entire, guys, it's a huge lot. It's that entire stretch of that, like kind of like terracotta building
Yeah.
that was put
Yeah.
up for years and years, plus the laundromat.
also an acre in size.
It's about 35,000 square feet.
And there was never any residential there, it was always either the
One story.
vacant place or the
One story
laundromat,
building.
that went all the way to the back.
Okay, so let me just further add for the benefit of the ULURP committee. R6 zoning, with a commercial overlay, allows up to 2 floors of commercial. So, and R6 FAR is only about like, a 2 anyway. So essentially, in an R6 zone, if somebody has a commercial overlay and doesn't really want to do residential, they can fill their building with commercial. So that's what that guy essentially did. And so you can, I would strongly urge, the committee members to look at the new version of the EAS, which was posted on June 7th. Because once this certifies, we'll have 6 days to review this and then, and make our comments. Does anyone have anything else they want to add on this one?
I have a question.
Yes.
The Michael Garfield from Bridges Development Corporation does not want to present to them.
Told by his lobbyist that he does not want to attend tonight. We will call a public hearing once it certifies and expect them to come. I think it would be very bad if they didn't, but.
Is that kind of like putting the horse after the car? Like, once it's certified, how do you, isn't that kind of backwards? Isn't there a public hearing? And then, what is the process?
Okay, so the way the ULURP timeline works is, certification means that the Department of City Planning is done reviewing the application on a technical level and has determined that it's correct and it can go forward. And it then goes to the community boards. We have 60 days to review and issue a recommendation. Then it goes to the borough president and the city planning commission and then the city council. Pre-certification means it's kind of still with city planning, and pre-certification meetings are something they've been encouraging in the last several years, just so that, you know.
Charter revision asked that community boards be included in that phase.
Early in
to
the
provide
process.
some input before all the deals were,
Yeah.
and the ink was dried.
Exactly.
And then after that, it's almost like a rub down going through.
Exactly.
And so he does not want to include part of that negotiation,
And it's,
basically.
and I think it's important to note that we had Councilmember Hudson here, well, in other issues, and she told us repeatedly that she hasn't been meeting with this developer. And then we looked at the lobbying disclosures, they've been meeting since the fall of last year. So he clearly thinks that he needs to come to us because he already has the vote that he needs. So that means that that's where the credit needs to be applied, just being frank.
And it is definitely more difficult to get them to make changes post-certification, but the city planning commission and the council can do that, as we saw with 962, 972 Frank, if there's a tremendous amount of public pressure. Does anyone else want to comment?
I just, do we know sort of what percentage of these units that are in the proposal will be quote unquote affordable and what's going to be market rate?
Okay, so.
Answer that in a general way.
Well, just to answer it with respect to the EAS, they have not told us whether they're going with MIH option 1 or option 2. Option 1 has to be an average of 6% AMI, with 25% overall, average 60% AMI, and that has to be at 40% of AMI. So it can range from 40% of AMI all the way up to 130% of AMI with an average of 60. Option 2 is 30% at 80% of AMI.
Can you break that down into income, because all these percentages ain't working.
And I will say that the AMI is kind of meaningless if you
Right.
don't know what that actually translates into for dollars. And the AMI changes every year, changes it every year. So, you know, we always mention the AMI, but it really comes down to dollars. That's the kind of the important thing to wrap your head around. So, I don't know. I don't know if we have that facility to figure that out now.
So for 2024, because we looked at this for City of Yes, 60% of AMI for a studio is like $1,630 a month, and for a one bedroom it's like $1,730. For a 2-bedroom, I think it's $2,100. 80% of AMI is higher. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember. There's a chart that.
There's a chart, yeah, and it makes a ULURP to have the updated chart every year, so that you have it as a reference.
Y'all talking about this zip code, or like
No.
y'all including upstate?
Yeah.
Like
They didn't
That's the AMI, that's the AMI for
So it's not
Westchester,
really
no, it
averaging
doesn't
out
fit
this
our
area,
community,
averaging
no.
for the metro area.
Right, which is Westchester, yeah,
Got it.
yes, it's like a region.
It would be nice if it was community.
And it'll be based
Yvette
on.
Clark is trying to do that.
That would
She
be
has been trying to do
wonderful,
that for a
because it
while,
would be a
but-
true reflection of the
But
community.
a lot of it, I'm sure you notice, like, even changing the MI, she doesn't change, like, a lot of financial issues, like, it doesn't really, so yeah, it's down to dollars, like, the percentages are.
Well, that's what makes this whole conversation of ability ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and so the other thing
That's
that
the
we
real
found out when we had a meeting with the HPD, the borough president did a training, is that apparently the AMIs are set with a special, like, high cost factor for New York City, and that high cost factor is determined in part by what the market rate rents in the area. So the higher rents go, the higher these AMIs go, irrespective of what people are earning, and
Could y'all speak up for the people over here? Because we out here, that's what I'm standing right here.
are there people out there?
Sitting right here,
Did
can't
you
hear.
see a copy of this thing?
Yeah, but she wants to hear us, you know.
Okay, do you want to
Maybe we
come?
could fit another
Does this
chair.
Can we
context
fit
is
another
right
chair in here?
It's good over. We could probably fit it in the same chair.
Okay.
This room isn't big enough for a meeting like this.
I just think
We need a dual.
bring up the ratio, the number of affordable units, and this question around what level of affordability, because I think that's important criteria to evaluate this, right? And if there's perhaps any way to engage on that to get those levels of affordability more to actually match the community, I think that's a worthwhile sort of line of investigation to go with. So.
Absolutely. And just so you guys know, the council member for this area, Crystal Hudson, released some development guidelines that speak to what percentages of affordable housing and what AMIs she wants to see. She put out a few different options. I think she wants to see a little bit more than 30% of AMI and or a little bit deeper affordability. Does anyone else want to speak to this?
Well, I'll note that she did I guess she did a study with, which?
Henry Street settlement? Or-
Yeah,
no,
Henry
sorry,
Street.
Hector.
Hector Street settlement, she did a study, but it was really not, the focus of that study, and we weren't really like, got invited to it, even though some of it was done, some of the things were done down here. We told them that right before they went ahead and, made their recommendations, so I don't know that she's looking at those recommendations as being, like, supposedly for this of the district, like, she's really looking primarily at CPA, but that doesn't mean she's not going to, impose those, at whatever point. And I do know that she's tried to get, with, like, single, applications for separate lots that are MI, she was able to get like a slightly higher percentage, I think, the last few did, but she wasn't able to get that for the Atlantic Avenue rezoning, which is happening now, also in the district. So I don't think she's paying much attention down here. I mean, just as a matter of, how much stuff there's going on up there.
So our committee did pass a housing resolution last year that speaks to some of their priorities and the board's priorities. So I would urge you also to take a look at that and see how that fits in with some of the developments that we're looking at. Our committee passed a zoning guidelines, which I would say take a look at it. It's not like a cut and dried thing. But what they're asking for here, which is a 13-story building, and it's a very significant upzoning, I'd say that definitely triggers some red flags for our zoning guidelines, which ask that, they look at the context of the building, and the context of this building, obviously Empire Boulevard overall is lower. Behind the building is Ebbets Field, that is a taller context. But also, we want them to look at shadows. The EAS does show some shadows on Jackie Robinson Playground, so the outdoor space there. So that's a concern. Overall, from a district-wide perspective, I think we said that 9 stories was really like where we would be concerned if it was going above that, and which this does.
First of all, we don't want to break the commercial zone. That's always been the mantra that we've been working with for the last 10+ years, that we don't want to start a ripple effect of Empire Boulevard. We need commercial spaces in this area.
They are proposing
break
100,000
the zone.
square.
So they are, so that's something to note about this application as well. They're proposing a fairly significant commercial upzoning in addition to the residential upzoning. So, you know, however you want it, you can view it any way you want. But they're keeping all of the commercial that they could do as of right and adding residential on top of it. So you can choose to view it as just
No
a massive.
residential on that.
You can choose to view this as just a massive upzoning of the residential half of the law. You know, it not having the residential tower, like it's setting back the residential tower away from Empire and pushing it towards Ebbets Field is a priority for you guys. You're, you know, certainly welcome to make that comment in the public hearing. But I think the main issue here that we should all be paying attention to is that they're asking for an absolutely massive upzoning. You're going from an overall FAR of a 2 on either the CA2 or R6 side to a 7.2. That's over a 300% upzoning. And that's something that you guys really should think about.
Actually, I'm looking at this 100,000 square feet of commercial, and I'm thinking, like, who's gonna rent all that space? How is that really viable in our neighborhoods? I don't get
Or is
that.
that supposed to be flipped to
I
residential
don't know.
under City of Yes?
I think it's devoid of City of Yes. They're rezoning to, well, whatever, I'm not sure. But to me, 100,000 is a lot of.
3 floors, 3 entire floors, basically.
I mean, you were just saying there's none of that work that's happening right now, right? Like commercial.
Right.
So they haven't said in their application what exactly it's going to be. They've said retail and supermarket. The supermarket has me asking questions because what's across the street, and then there's another mixed-use development coming on the Port Empire in Bedford, which is expected to have a Lidl supermarket.
And there's
So
Food Town on Franklin,
And there's
there's
also
Lincoln Road.
two, in the other, Bellwood Avenue is also supposed to have a grocery store.
Yeah, no, the new-
As
the
you
building
go
has
up
a-
the street, they got the extra place for the.
What's associated will be coming back on No Street.
Right.
So that may be that may be something we want to, you know, ask them about.
Southern grocery store.
Are we
So
happy
how
about
can
that
the
or not
grocery
happy?
stores
I mean,
look
you
to
would think
build
that it would
up?
bring prices down if you're a supply sort of person, but I'm not, so I don't, I don't think that that's gonna happen.
I think it's obvious with the writing on the wall. He's not presenting, he's not including. He obviously will change after everything is set. So it's quite obvious.
Everything.
I mean, I've been saying this for a while, you give them an inch, they'll take a yard. He's obviously showing his hand and who he is. So if we wanna be blindsided and act like we don't see what he's doing, then we be the ones at fault for that. So, I don't think he should be given this. I think that it will be changed right after it's done, when the city of Yes, they will do what they're doing, city of Yes comes in, make the changes, and he's gonna be happy because what's done is already done.
Yes, please.
So I'm hearing it's AMI, affordability, but no one's speaking of low income. Okay, I represent the unit. Employees are in shelters. Okay, no one is speaking on that. No one is speaking on schools. Okay, we need specialized schools, education. No one is speaking on that. No one spoke on recreation for senior citizens. No one is speaking on that. Correct. But you're speaking on what? Something that no one can afford and is pushing everyone that's living presently out? I don't get it.
To the point, this is really about sort of folks at the bottom of the ladder, folks who, most of these developments are completely unreachable. I think that's why we need to figure out what our preferred affordability standard is and perhaps use that in combination, because I think, you know, if proposing to include 30% of those units be some combination, some level of affordable, how do we work on making sure that prevents those almost 100 units are more affordable than anything they're thinking about right now? I think that's really important work.
I think they should present to the board, so that we're not sitting here guessing on all these things and making a theory. I have no idea on what the plan is, other than to build up, And from my understanding, if developer says they are gonna have a fresh market, it allows for building height to increase even more to accommodate the fresh market.
But
Yes,
they're not gonna get the fresh bonus because one of the conditions is that there's not another fresh supermarket within.
It doesn't matter, that doesn't matter. You
Yes,
guys
it
have to
does.
remember, those things don't matter. The building on Franklin Avenue got the fresh program, and there's a supermarket catty corner to it. We have to remember that the rules that are set do not matter. Look at here, we're here, this is not a ULURP committee. It has been stated that there is a motion on the floor for you guys, committee leader, committee chair, to sit there and reconfigure this committee. You can put your hands in your hands all you want, but it has been requested that you represent community with this committee. Suki? Fred? So if you can't listen to us here at this meeting and we all live in this community, how the heck is city planning and these developers and our council members expected to listen to us? You're not listening to us. I am tired of this. I'm tired of the stupid rules being read at the beginning of these meetings to silence people. This is not public school. We are not students. This is unacceptable. Reconfigure this committee.
Yes.
To represent this community.
Yes.
Otherwise, the conversation must stop here because it's all nonsense. You have been asked by this community a number of times to change this. To change it. What is the holdup? Who is wringing your necks? What is going on here? This meeting does not need to continue until you fix this committee. And nobody else should stand for this. This is ridiculous.
To her point, yeah, motion, because it has been requested to reconfigure this, and I don't know what's the hold up. It's like ridiculous. It's just going on and on. It's like, it's ridiculous.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've spoken to Suki, I mean, this
You
is
wanna put the
crazy.
motion back on the floor?
I will put the motion back on the floor.
Motion has been rolled out of.
Yeah, but it is not out of
What?
order. It is not out of order. The
How is it out of
bylaws
order?
state in Article 8, I have it on my phone, I have it in my notes, this is not out of order. This is allowable. Article 8, Committee Sec 8.3, appointed members may be appointed to committees at any time during the year or transferred from one committee, Housing Committee, to ULURP, since we have all of these beautiful women here who could change to ULURP committee. Somebody from the ULURP can get off and go to Housing. Transfer them from one committee to another by board chairperson, by the chairperson, and the member involved as the need. So she is the committee.
And I'm
She
the
is,
chair.
and where's what's her name,
And it's been ruled
Mazursky?
out of order, so there
It's
is
not
no
out of
motion.
order, but it is out of
There is
order.
on the floor
There,
because
it is
the
not out
authority
of
rests-
order. It's not out of order.
It is out of
You
order.
need to tell us how it is out of order. If somebody puts the motion on and someone else on the board and the committee seconds it, it is not out of order.
It is not a decision for the board members to make a motion, it is a decision for the chair of the committee.
If there is a
chair,
motion
the
on the
member in
floor,
question.
we need to entertain it. It is not out of order.
No, we do not.
It's not out of order. Well, then this is a fascist regime. That's outrageous. This is a republic.
Move on to your next item.
This is a republic.
I have a question, I have a question.
You can take this question.
Question.
Do you have
Yeah.
questions on
Hold on,
Empire?
I'm sorry.
Well, I have a que-
I'm
can I-
sorry, but I have,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
First of all, to her point, in I remember in Harlem on 125th and Lexington, they put a path mark there, and then later in that Abyssinian facilitated that. Then later on, they were able to remove the path within a year and build luxury housing on top of it. What's to stop that from happening in this case? That's one. And number two,
And that also happened
what is
downtown by the bridge.
onus for building something only 30% of affordable housing, when majority of the stuff that you see being built in this neighborhood are so unaffordable that over half of them remain vacant. You know what I'm saying? So what is the purpose of need to build something that is only 30% housing in this community, in a community where a majority of people in the zip code cannot afford to buy the other 70%?
I think those are both really good comments, and I wish the developer was here to hear them. But it'll be recorded, and we'll put it in our minutes. As to the question about how do we know that the supermarket is going to
You're just gonna go
stay,
over it. You're still going over it.
I do not know if there is some type of a covenant that's contained in the fresh bonus, but I can check.
There is, because we see it happening. Why do we watch things happen and then continue to do the same thing over again? Why is that? Do we not learn anything from our past?
So it is a permanent requirement. I can't speak to how many are.
It gets written into a restrictive declaration that requires a property to have it in
So
perpetuity.
there's no air rights that they could buy above the market.
Yes.
They could.
Okay, that's the crux of it.
It depends.
And again, I'm sorry. And again, for the second question, what is the purpose of building housing that nobody can afford when that which has already been built is not being filled up because it's so unaffordable? Like, why are we even entertaining building something that most people in this community cannot live in? Is it to attract people that don't live here?
By design.
That's what it seems like.
No, you're not being naive, but the point is, just to answer that question very quickly, the people who make the decisions are not here in the room. It's the people who own the properties, because what ends up happening is they are trying to meet their profit margins and do whatever we've done. So what's happened is the conversation has been here at the board, exactly that, in terms of we're not rubber stamping things in that nature where it's like, well, you want to go 15, 16 stories because that makes you rich. We get nothing from the deal, so do something against what the zoning already says. If you can build up to 6 stories, you can build up to 6 stories. That's your business. If you bought 7 times more than the property was worth because you thought you had 15 extra stories, that's a concern that we have. We have that leverage where we can say, what's in it for us, or no, the zoning was the zoning. So, it's a little bit of a long explanation, but what I'm saying is, that's the conversation that's outside, but that's the reason why it's important that we this work in here, because that's the conversations we need to bring to the elected officials as well, and say, listen, something's gotta change, because the way the system is working is broken. And because of the way the system is working, we're encouraging a lot of people to make bets that we have to deal with because you gotta pay whatever rent.
Yep, and that's what they want.
Okay, sir in the black.
Yeah, I want to just add on to what the brother over there was saying, because I'm in here thinking the same thing. And so I'm just trying to keep up, and I was just a little frustrated, but what he said was a thought I had about the affordable housing. As we mentioned, affordable housing is going by what the average city or the metro. Like, when affordable housing comes in, when they build affordable housing, that affordable house, because it goes up, it's going to be more than what people are paying already, right? So what happens is their rent goes up, and this when people no longer can afford. So I'm trying to think, like, I'm not sure which your guys' job is. I'm trying to catch up, but it feels like, for me, I think it should be to sort of listen to the people and go back and this is what we want, rather than, because it sounds like a compromise is being, not 15-9, but that's not really helping the community. So it's almost as if you guys are cahoots with them, even though y'all may not be getting anything. But it's like, I trust me, I get it. But that's
and I want to be very clear for the record.
Yeah.
For the record, and all those committee, have we ever voted for something where we said, you know what? Over your zoning, you can this much more, and we're good with it. Have we ever done that?
Literally never done that. But we've never
done that at CB9. Never been done.
We're the
The conversations that happen are happening further down, and that's the reason why it's important for us to make sure that we're activated and with conversations that we're escalating these issues.
I understand. It could be worse. What I'm getting is like y'all trying to make sure it isn't worse than it could be. But we just got to do more. I feel like more has to be done though, because it's not really helping.
Right, and that's the challenge that we have, because the way that things are structured right now, most of these projects have like an 80-20. They'll give you 20% affordable, and they'll have 80% that will be market rate. And then they have certain programs that have already been structured by the city that these developers can slot their projects into. And most of those programs do not go down to the what are we calling it now? It's deep affordability. They're not deeply affordable. They come up with an average. Have an average AMI of 60%, and so maybe you'll get 2 units that are deeply affordable, and then you'll have others that are at 120 or
Add a separate entrance. Don't forget, City of Yes is trying to put that in.
Well, right now we're not dealing with Yes. Just as of right, they would. They may have 2 units that are deeply affordable, but then they'll push the envelope on the other units to be even higher to come out with that 60%. So it's like a catch-22, and you can talk more about it as
Well,
because you deal with affordability.
So I think that the other thing that we don't really discuss here is secondary displacement and what happens when you have, for example, in the area that I live in, there were no luxury apartments before, right? As soon as they started up, even though some of them were going to be affordable, overall, the creation of luxury apartments in my neighborhood raised the rents, got people harassed out of their buildings. This stuff happens immediately. As soon as you hear about a developer doing something, there's people appraising the building the next day. It's really, really kind of horrifying how quickly it happens. So, I was talking about the Spice Factory. The reason that we say we'd rather have just, as of right than whatever else they were, because that lowers the number of more expensive market rate apartments in the neighborhood. So that still helps keep the rents down for the people that aren't regulated, which is quite a few in this area. So,
And I also think that the one thing that's right is that the people that are making these decisions are not in the room. We have to get Reynoso, we have to get Crystal in these meetings so that they can really understand what's going on in this community. Because if they're negotiating with the developers in the back end, what are our chances that they're actually going to do what they're supposed to?
Funding their campaigns.
No
decisions. That's correct. Like ultimately.
But still, he pushes it along.
Oh yeah,
He pushes it
have
along.
power. But
So he has to really understand. I don't think he even understands what is really happening on this side of the district. And neither does Crystal. Because neither one of them take the time to find out exactly what the community is going through. So we gotta get him in here.
Can I say something?
Okay, so I would like to go back to the basics. So she made a statement and she read the that says out of order. I need to understand why is it out of order when the motion was put on the floor. I'm understanding the motion.
Okay.
She read it.
Parliamentary procedure. Let me explain. This
Okay,
is parliamentary procedure. The chair can rule a motion out of order if the motion isn't aligned with the rules and the bylaws. So I can't go to Congress and say, all right, I can't rule and say, well, listen, we want to make this legal if the Constitution says it's illegal. So automatically, it's not something we can do. It's out of scope. So we said we're not even going to entertain that because it's the bylaws. The bylaws say specifically it is against the bylaws.
So how is it against the bylaws?
Against the bylaws. The bylaws say, here's the thing. Let's follow this.
Let's follow the trail. Let's the time. The bounce
So
ball.
the committee makes a motion. The committee makes a motion that they want this to be done. Who is supposed to redo that?
The chair and the.
Exactly. Which is where it lay to begin with.
And we're asking you to revisit it.
We're going to revisit
And
it.
it's a moot point.
Concerns
It's
that
a
you
moot
may
point. You're
not
asked to do
have.
something that already exists within us. So that's not anything.
No, but
No, it is.
after
Doesn't
it's been assembled, we're asking you to revisit it based on the voice of the community. The people spoken. I've been to all the meetings and people have constantly said they do not like this. So we're asking to revisit the motion on the table.
And it was second.
And it was second and third and fourth. Many people spoke it, so I'm just asking.
We gotta have a discussion.
No, we gotta have training on parliamentary later.
Okay.
All right, you wanna go, you wanna practice right
Okay,
now?
so what,
Stand and make the motion?
so I just want to say that all of the comments that were made are very important. I'll make sure that these get to the developer. So we will write to them again and make sure they're coming for the public hearing. Keep your eye out for the public hearing. Sir, keep your eye out for the public hearing when the developer will be coming, because we want you to come and make the
Most definitely. I work right over here at McEvans College.
Okay.
I'm right here.
You invite them to the
you
general
should.
meeting? Because there'll be more room. This is really not.
Where the public
Yeah,
hearing
it's
will be
too
held at
crowded
the
in
school.
here.
Public hearing will be held at the school.
Well, can you invite the people from, that want to build the,
Oh, we invited them to this meeting and they refused to come, but they will definitely be invited to the public hearing. And I think if they don't come, that would be really bad. We're
Did they
inviting
really?
them.
is there, that the upcoming one
Is there a date
in
for
this
that?
this month's meeting? What you could do, invite them to the October meeting, the November meeting, the December meeting, and just give them a whole list of the dates of the meeting. So that if the October one is not
Yeah.
available, they
So
can come to
we have
November.
to find out when it certifies, because once it certifies, there's a time limit. So if it certifies, let's say at the end of October, we have to have our public hearing in November. And that's when I'll schedule it with the
How could it
office.
certify without coming to the board?
Because
Because it's not
certification
mandatory.
is is city
That's
planning
exactly
saying
right.
the application is community? It's really a courtesy to us that they're kind of holding it and asking the developer to come and speak to us, but the developer doesn't have to. They're just not like.
And that's the point I was going to make just now. I don't think that it is a requirement that they have to come to the community board. I mean, all of the building that's been going on so far has not been conducive to the community in terms of cost, and it has not.
As of right.
Okay,
This is
as of
zoning.
right,
This is the
zoning,
zoning, they're not coming.
the thing is that is it necessary, or, well, it should be necessary, but do they have to come to the community board? Because from my end, the community board is more of an advisory. We don't really have that kind of power
They have to come.
over a developer to say
more or
that they
less
have to come
they
here,
more or
unless I'm
less-
wrong.
Yeah, no, they more or less have to come for the public hearing. But I certainly think, you know, if the committee's agreed, I think we could, the office, write a letter, CC Crystal Hudson, so that they didn't want to come to the public ULURP meeting and strongly, you know, insisting that they come in November for a public hearing.
I do want to say that this location here is, looking at the map, it's an important sort of bookend of the Empire Boulevard development. And my one is that this will set a precedent for future development down there. So, and it's, the council district is right down the middle of Empire Boulevard, so it's going to affect the Hudson's district. Rita Joseph.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be affecting
So
her,
maybe
her
we
district as
want
well.
to
I
CC
think
Joseph as well.
we need to look
Yeah.
at larger picture.
Yeah.
That this is someone putting a really big flag on the ground, and this is, everyone else is gonna go for it.
Yes, absolutely, and, so I think that, we would wanna write council members Hudson and Joseph, to
Right at the
ask
board.
that they pressure the developer to come and meet with the public.
They've been meeting with them since last fall. They should be able to talk.
I think it would be a
if we
good
can get-
opportunity if since the council member has her sort of land use blueprint posted, I think it would be a good opportunity to, at least Hudson, engage her on how this development matches up with her blueprint.
Right.
And sort of use that as an entryway, as a conversation with her, to push deeper affordability. Because, look, if she is friends with them as you at the table, and these things tend to get approved, we need to have both strategies. We need to talk about fighting against this happening, but if it's gonna happen, we need to talk about how to make it the most affordable it could possibly be. And so I think we could do things at the same time.
You are a very optimistic person, don't you agree, Mayor?
I want to know
Not how it works.
Until we know exactly.
Okay,
what-
well,
We already know how it
Certainly
works.
we
We
can
know
ask
Atlantic
for-
Avenue.
certainly we can
We know how it
engagement
works.
And then take it from there. Is everybody good with that?
I want to know, what recourse do we have if they continue to circumvent? I mean, if they don't want to
Vote
come,
no.
what's the
Vote
recourse?
no.
What do you
Let's
do?
vote no.
Well, here's the thing. The circumvention, the only thing they are legally required to do is public hearing once it's certified. Prior to that, the whole idea of the pre-certification was the community has a heads up, so it's like you know it's in, you have an idea of what's there, and it's supposed to give an opportunity for us to say, listen, let's talk before everything goes through to see if there's anything that we would say you should include there as part of that. That hasn't happened yet, but they will have to come ultimately in front of the community board. So it's not that we never will see them. They have to. They're going to see us at one point or another.
They're representative, right? Because like we never saw recycling ever.
Well, yeah.
So they'll send us.
Well, listen, if they send a representative, they send a representative, you tell the representative what to tell them. But the point is, that's not going to get circumvented. But let's just say there's not a very good track record of developers actually working with communities. But we still need to make sure that that's a conversation that is insistent on, where it's like, no, you need to come and talk to us. You need to come and say you want a variance in the zoning, you want to do X, Y, Z and everything like that. And we're supposed to just take that in there.
And it's a way also of putting pressure on the council members to say, we're happy, you know, and, you know, we are taking this to your door. So I'll, if we're all agreed with that, I'll ask the office, to write a
I'm
letter.
sure they CC Andrew Wright, I think it's the chief of staff, but also
Okay,
like
on
that's the land.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's the way to go, because if the council person is not aligned with the advisory board, which is the community board, nothing is going to get, we're just going to be that little hamster in the wheel, just going round and round and round and round. Right? Because we have no power, right? So we have to get Chris Lexon, Rita Joseph, and everybody to get on our side so that everything's aligned. Because right now, nothing is aligned.
What kind of things do you think you can do to get them to actually care?
There are ways.
I mean,
They do work for us. They are our elected officials. We vote them in and we can vote for them.
City council campaign,
We have to make our voice
seem
stand
to
for
work.
that.
The reason I'm here at this meeting is because I have noticing the disparate impact that all these developments, and I've had meetings, over meetings after meetings I've attended on, especially during COVID-19, when everybody was talking about this and doing something, and the common cry is that we are providing housing for people, affordable housing. The word affordable housing, it doesn't, yeah, it is a gimmick. It doesn't, it's like it doesn't exist, but no. Yeah, the phrase affordable housing doesn't exist really. Affordable because when they do build it, people are, most units are empty. They hold on to it.
That's not a housing
People can't do it, and there is a housing shortage. No, the point I want to make is that regardless of what we say, everything we say, the things we do, we vote against it, someone else comes in, they come and go. The impact is the same, that this community is being pushed out. It's just gradually being pushed out. And even if it's not pushed out, physically people are being pushed out, the great impact is always on the community. This community, the community of color, I hate to use the phrase community of color, I usually use black. These are the ones that are affected by it. We are the ones that are affected all the time by it. The disparate impact on us in so many different ways. I don't need to tell you because you are aware of it, and I'm sure you've heard it over and over. And I know that you all are doing your jobs. Everyone has said in here, I agree with, well, not everything. I agree with that woman in the play, and I understand why people get really hot under the I'm getting hot. But I am just fed up, and I think that people need to be able to see the disparate impact, the effect it has on the community. It's happening throughout. It's just pushed all the way out to the dumplands, or people are pushed out there. And the government themselves, the one who are responsible for it, go and build these houses out there on the these people out of their homes that you spend your entire life here in your community, and you go out onto the margin in these, I don't know, I shudder to think that, there you go, the marshland. You know, so, I mean, the marshland beyond the marshland until they can think of something to do with the marshland. You know, and exactly. So this is my right. We need to find a different way and a different approach to do that. You have to make them the disparate impact that is having on it, and that the policies that are using, whatever method they're using to talk to these developers or to grant the developers whatever the opportunities that they're getting in here is not working unless they consider that impact and they avoid the impact. They have to do whatever it is to up the impact on people.
Yeah.
That's my
name.
My name is Deb.
And if that wasn't enough, state legislators consider bringing back 421A. Not quite, but they are going to give full force in that tax law, tax payment to the developers, because they want to bring more development into New York City. So be prepared for that.
We're gonna run out of land. There's not gonna be land.
So let's start with the letters to the council members. I think it might be a very good idea at some point if the housing committee wants to consider doing a town hall to speak about some of these issues, like the secondary displacement, my levels.
What is secondary displacement?
So that's what you're talking about, like the
Your land raises your rent because everybody else is so expensive.
A number of us have brought lawsuits, they haven't always succeeded, and again, that's, you know, I mean, I think there needs to be more pressure, there needs to be more education, but, you know, like.
Officially, that doesn't exist according to the city, but they also fund tenant protection program, or this displacement doesn't exist, so.
And rent-free program. This thing to the town hall, bring out 300 or 400 people, you know, to address some of these issues, and so I don't know if that's.
Is that really, are we just spinning our wheels?
You know, as Nicola says, ultimately they worry about getting reelected. So you have to think about ways to put pressure.
Partner down the line there, telling us what we want to get.
Like Lord Kumba, where's she now?
She's living it up. She's living it up.
I mean, it's, you know, I'm, you know, I don't know if this is the time and the place to get into politics, but obviously, you know, you've got to choose your candidates, right? So.
Another interesting thing to note is that we're pretty sure that Crystal Hudson wants to be the speaker, a chief for that. So that might be an opportunity to put some pressure. I mean, that's for re-election too, so I don't think that's the hardest part.
How's she gonna be speaker, Adrian?
And as you mentioned, this is happening all over the city, so if you can ally with tenant groups across the city, maybe you can, you know, that's something that you should talk to Esteban.
About what?
About,
What's that later?
working with other tenant groups on these kinds
Yeah,
of issues.
I just could then make a quick comment on what you were talking in terms of we should have something that we, you know, some sort of compromise that we make.
I'm not talking about a compromise, I'm talking about making very specific recommendations
Yes.
on levels of affordability that would actually work.
Right. But I want so for the Bedford Union Armory, for anybody who was around during that time, we had a very clear campaign to oppose that, to kill the deal. We went on for about a year. We did not say that we wanted better stuff. We said we didn't want this at all. We didn't get it. We lost. But
Thanks, Lori.
But luxury condos on city-owned land were never a thing after that because we were going to get rid of that. We were able to actually improve the affordability significantly because we didn't, like, it's a negotiation. So as soon as you start to cave, they're going to take as much as they can.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
in the history of what we've done, the experience that we have, at least my experience in the past 8 years, trying to do it in a way that you're talking about has not yielded the kind of, like, it just hasn't yielded. I just don't think that everyone's coming to the table in good faith.
I hear what you're saying, but what I'm also hearing is that the tactic that we all agree would work best is protests, right? And I think a board is not just a community board, sort of has many different levers to engage with agencies and elected officials. And so we can think beyond that.
Okay, I just want to make it clear that this board has helped to stop a rezoning on Franklin Avenue. We stopped the Spice Factory from being a 40-story building based on our tax. We stopped the neighborhood-wide rezoning. We've been doing it for a while. I appreciate your insights, but you're new to this.
I
understand where we're coming from.
I understand that. I'm new to this, but also I'm in Brooklyn my whole entire life.
And me too.
I lived in Flatbush. I live on Fenimore Street. I have just as much right to this space in this community, and I would love to be able to put roots here and here for 10 or 15 years, like some people who had an opportunity to own in the community. Sadly, if you're not a person that has a leg up, you have a chance in this city. You have no chance to put roots anywhere, right? So when thinking and talking about this issue, we need to make sure we're thinking about all the different perspectives that are at play. Some of them conflicting. I'd be the first one to acknowledge that. But listen, I live on Fenimore. My landlord raised my rent 2 years, 27%. I said, hell no, I'm not paying that. You know what? I went online and tried to find a new apartment. I could not find anything that was even close or comparable. That was actually the best deal, raising my rent 27%. Okay, so I hear people saying there's no vacancy crisis. I hear people saying no more new building, no more new units. I'm telling you, there's a huge swath of people where that message is just completely over our head. What you're advocating for protects people who already have roots, which is very important. But it's also important to think about people who are trying to establish some roots.
That's not what we're saying.
That's not what we're saying.
That's not what we're saying.
Not at all.
You tell me how that's going. You tell me. Run the tape.
Based on what you're
Just
saying,
continue.
based on what you're saying, this wouldn't have been legal.
Understood. What I'm saying is it's not constructive right now to just talk about bona fides and who can say what or who has whatever rights.
Okay, so
Everybody has different perspectives at this table, and we move on from there. And that is the conversation, and they'll begin, and that's
So
what
I
happens.
think those are all, valid points, but we have one item to get through, it's almost 9 o'clock. 975 Nostrand Avenue, the development that was more or less as of right, although they did get the fresh bonus. They are, yes, they are coming to us, to request a waiver of the curb cut rules to permit a 23-foot wide curb cut at the corner of Clove Road and Malbone Street. Now, this, waiver, it's a city planning authorization, a special permit, or a zoning map change. So it's not actually a regular item. I know this may be a little bit confusing to some of you. Those of you who went through City of Yes with me know there's like 2 or 3 different variations of things that city planning can do. This is an authorization, so it's not a required ULURP voting item. It doesn't follow the usual ULURP schedule, but it's typically referred by city planning to community boards for comment for days. Our comment period on this ends November 12th. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with this site, with Clove Road, but it's a very narrow road that basically, like, on one side is this new development, and on the other side is like a 4-story condo building and a bunch of small houses, and it's like a very kind of particular community. And
there's like gas stations.
That alley, yeah, and then there's a church, and there's a parking yard. But the parking yard essentially fronts onto Nostrand, the auto place, the auto garage fronts onto. Oh, okay.
Hi, sorry.
Hi. So the garage fronts onto Nostrand Avenue. The church also fronts onto Nostrand. But the people who use Clove Road are basically the people who live on Clove Road, and that's kind of like a small, tight-knit community.
Before you go, I think it would help, I don't know.
Yes.
We did have,
You have
we have a
a
little presentation. It's a very good summary though.
If you could just show the drawing, can you put up, we could just put up the drawing? We really just want to see the area.
Yeah, that over there, that's an auto center. Auto center, light green. These little houses. Carl Cohen's ranch over there. Carl Cohen's ranch. Cause I'm a summary because the road.
I know it's barely get a car through here.
And while we consider this,
While we're trying to straighten that out, could I make a comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, one second, please. Why are we considering this?
So this is not a ULURP voting item, but it does get referred to community boards or comment.
What is the purpose?
So,
Yeah.
Hi everyone. My name is Berke Kademoğlu. I'm a senior project manager at the Hudson Companies. Who's the developer of 95 Nostrand Avenue. First and foremost, thank you to Community Board 9 for allowing us to be on the agenda today, and all of the community members for joining us and hearing up. I'm joined by my colleague Marley Bushing, Managing Director, our architects Amaya De Souza and Alex Tiranian from ODA, and our attorney Stephanie from Hirsch & Singer and Epstein. As you mentioned, we were here previously in front of you for the fresh authorization, and we are very grateful for the approval of that. as a reminder, 975 Nostrand is a 328 unit development, and additionally, the project will bring back what used to occupy the site. There will be a brand new store, fresh grocery store, operated by Pablo Espinal, who operated the previous grocery store. And
The same man, it's gonna be
We don't wanna see the
associated?
it's going to be the same operator. And the reason why we are here today is to request to increase our curb cut from 22 foot, which is allowable under the zoning resolution, to 23 feet, 1 foot increase, and that is, and also locate our curb cut at the intersection of 2 street lines. And the reason for that is due to the irregular zoning, irregular lot area that we have, creating an acute turn into the garage from Clove Road. Also, the intersection of Bone Street to directly in front of our garage entrance. So
So the garage is basically coming in on Clove Road
yeah.
from,
Can we see the
not in the front of the building, but in,
It-
essentially the back of the building.
Correct. It's on the southeastern corner of our lot
Yeah.
on Clove Road.
And it's near where, like, there's basically a gas station, rent-a-car place across the street.
Towards the east, yes.
Yeah, I know, I've been over there looking at the development, and I see where that garage you've been building is there. So you wanna make a shorter curb cut so you can pull in?
We want to increase the curb cut by 1 foot.
1 foot, 22
So
feet.
if you don't get the waiver, what will you do?
So we are requesting this waiver to be able to build the curb cut and get our builder's pavement plan approved, which also includes improvements that we are committed to making to Clove Road and the intersections on each end of Clove Road. And so that's why
But as of right under the zoning code, you have an option other than putting it at the corner and making it 23, right? So what is that option?
So-
we want to be able to tell them.
Sorry, so we ended up citing the entrance to the garage, the south side of the lot, because we were working closely with Pablo, the supermarket operator of the
Okay.
associated supermarket, to configure the best sort of loading scenario for that supermarket. So the loading for the market takes place also on Clove Road towards the north end of the site, which is also where the new 21,000 square foot branded beautiful supermarket will be located. So that's all sited on the north end. So because the supermarket's there, all of the residential sort of amenity, parking entrance, all of that got pushed to the south end of the site. And it just so happened that because of how Malva sort of intersects right there, which is a one-way street, it creates this awkward angle. And we would love to not be here asking you for or your support for 1 foot of a curb cut. Like it is.
Okay, but you're not answering
DOT
my question. If
So-
you don't, if CPC does not grant your authorization, where will the curb cut be and how big will it be?
The curb cut will still be there, but it will have to be 22 feet. DOT was the one, so in order to get approval for
Okay, but
everything,
my
DOT
understanding
has
is, my
dictated
understanding
the width.
is per the code, CPC has the right to authorize it if they think it's not going to adversely affect the character of the area or cause traffic congestion. But if they do not authorize the waiver, you have to be feet away from the intersection, correct?
I can
So,
clarify
I think
that
that's
as
a
well.
technical
The
point.
building commissioner is actually allowed to waive the location, the 50 location, but not the width. We just packaged it together as one approval, to be comprehensive.
And the building commissioner has already indicated that they would approve the location.
So if we didn't get it, it would slide.
Commissioner that waives it.
I don't know if it's a formal letter, it's an email communication that they've said that they would do that stepping. I mean,
Okay, so we would need to see that letter, and, does anybody is there anybody here who lives on Clove Road?
Nobody really lives there.
Yes, they do,
Their
Tara.
the backs of the there, not their
the
front.
side.
There's no frontage.
But there are people
There's
that,
no frontage on
but
Clove
there,
Road,
but there
I'm
are,
right.
but Tara,
no-
there are people who live there who have the right to
Of
comment,
course,
that's why it
of course
comes
they
to
do. The
us.
backs of their houses are all there. There's no frontage on Clove Road, that's what I'm saying. So I do know, I go there frequently, and I do notice that the garage that they're building is in the back, and I'm just wondering, nobody really drives on Clove Road. Nobody really drives on it. You drive a little bit and you park. It's a weird parking lot, mostly. And it's a very old road. There's a pretty unique history to that area. And there's a big lot next to it, and it's just, I'm wondering, like, where are all the cars gonna go? You really, Associated used to have a huge lot. Is there just parking in the basement? Is there gonna be parking for people visiting? Like, what's the deal with the parking over there? And where are the trucks that are delivering the food there? They're all gonna go, because it's a really big hole over off of Clove Road now.
Yeah,
That's,
so-
what's happening there?
Yeah.
Like, where are people, what about the traffic, you know, that's what, because you're going right up the edge of Nostrand Avenue, there's no setback at all for anybody. Any outdoor space, and what's happening with that little lot next door?
So the little lot next door, I believe you're mentioning,
Carl
referring to
Collins.
the one right north of us.
Right.
That we have no ownership of that lot, it's a separate owner, and I know he has some plans that haven't been realized so far. What I can speak to is just 975 Nostrand Avenue, and even though the previous surface parking lot is no longer, we have built a cellar space to accommodate residents and retail users, as well as the community facility users to be able to park cars.
So
in the
people
cellar
shopping will be able to park in that basement?
space. Correct.
Rent a space there?
As a community member?
It will be an attendant parking garage, and so there will be an operator. We have not engaged an operator yet, but it'll be, you know, as in many places where, you know, I don't know if they're
Residential
validating
parking or
parking for the
period?
supermarket shoppers, I don't know what these, but it's possible something like that could happen.
It's gonna enormously change.
So it's for the building residents as well as for the
There,
supermarket.
by zoning, there's parking for residential and retail.
Is it one level of parking or two?
Do they have to pay to park while they get groceries?
We don't know. We don't have a reader lined up yet. The building is still under construction.
Oh.
So the supermarket owners are gonna be using that garage at the corner of Boulevard.
That is the only garage.
And that's where they're gonna drop off the food in the back?
That's the delivery?
Will be, maybe, we can point it at the plans a little bit better, but Maya, if you could point where the loading will be.
Yeah, where's the loading? I live very close to this site, I walk around it a lot. See how you can see the backs of the people's houses?
Yeah, the loading to the building on this side, so this is Clover Road right here. This is the garage entrance that we're talking about.
Right.
23 feet, hopefully. And the loading dock for the grocery store, the loading zone will be here on the north side of our.
And the entrance to the supermarket, is that the?
It's right,
It's on Nostrand.
Nostrand Avenue.
What's the
So
footprint
people
of the
are gonna park
supermarket?
there and walk through the site to get to the.
Can you outline the supermarket footprint? Like the-
Supermarket footprint
Yeah.
is, it starts right here, all the way,
Oh, so it just go all the
Okay,
way?
yeah,
there
it's
we go. I figured, I just would like you to show so
Yeah.
everybody can see and be on the same page, thank you.
So people could park and then enter the supermarket from the back as well?
the entrance will be through.
Inside the
Like
parking lot.
the
elevators.
service for, and like back of house for the supermarket, although I don't know if there's one corridor. That's the design of the
I mean, I'm just trying to understand if people are driving to the supermarket and groceries.
Yeah, they'll have to take the cars to that garage, unload, because there's no entrance to the garage to the supermarket.
There will be
But
internet.
Can I ask a question? Can you drive out of the parking lot and make a right without being in the intersection? Because that's a one-way street. I'm just wondering for safety of pedestrians and bicyclists and cars coming off them. Where are those cars gonna make that right into?
And what about all those cobblestones, those real old cobblestones, one of a kind?
Like, do you make the right into the intersection?
I don't know too.
Yeah.
I mean,
All our tools.
That's a native road, you know?
That gray shaded area is the building.
I don't
So
know
you have
if you
to
make a right to
exit
go
each
out.
station.
Just on Empire Boulevard.
When you exit, you're still on Clover Road.
Now going this one way, so.
Yeah, you have to just go out right down Clove Road to Empire Boulevard.
You
That's
can't
not
turn right there, you have to go either all the way through to Empire or, and
No, I mean out of the parking lot, you can turn
You
safely.
can only turn south.
One way.
Yeah.
So what about the cobblestones there? Are they gonna stay or are they gonna
So
be removed?
that's
Those
a
are
good
concerned.
question, Tara. Dante asked DOT, and DOT said it would be paid over because it's not landmark. And just for those of you who don't know, Hector remembers, sure, but this issue goes back decades. That our board had made it a landmark priority to landmark the cobblestone street on Clove Road because it goes back to I don't know, like the Revolutionary War.
It was a native town.
And residents who lived there wanted it to have it asphalted over so they could drive because it's a Jewish community, they drive, and this feud went on for about 15 years, and my very first board meeting was a huge scuffle over Clove Road. So, my opinion, I think we really need to get the feedback from the people who live there, the church on the corner, the people in that area, and I know there's a timeline for this. I would suggest that we ask the office to post notices at that area, advising people of the curb cut. If you have any comments, they can email, they can come to the general board meeting at the end of October. All of you've had good comments and questions, should also email the board, and then all of the feedback can be collected and forwarded to city planning. Maybe there won't be any feedback, but maybe people will care deeply. It's just difficult for those of us who are not there to know. And so that's going to be my suggestion. Maybe there will be lots and lots of feedback, in which case let's get all the feedback and let's forward it directly to the
There was all those forms that we filled out about Clove Road, how we wanted it developed, blah, 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 what did you want here? Well, how are we gonna develop it? There was a big poster on the wall, I took the form. But what's happening with that? Nothing, just a big paved road.
Nothing.
Just a big paved road that's gonna be an inlet for a grocery store. So it won't be recognized at all in any way?
Is that the last item on the agenda?
That was the last item on the agenda.
Adjourn?
Can we vote on that? Vote on the board office notice and collect feedback?
Yes.
November 12th.
You guys should not be voting
Well,
on
let's say November 11th, so they have a day to collect it.
You should not be voting on
Anybody
anything.
disagree with that?
No.
So consent, okay, so we have two.
What was the vote?
We're gonna have the board office post a notice about the curb cut at that corner, like, let's say at least 2 notices at that corner. Collect feedback by email to tell people to come to the general board meeting, and it can be from, like any of these people here too. And forward the feedback to city planning, before November 12th, which is the end of our 45-day period.
But I think we should have, so here's what before I go into I think we should have a recommendation that comes from the board, so the feedback, we can have that board separately, but we're probably gonna make it an agenda item on the board that we probably would have.
That's fine.
So we'll have a board vote up, down, or we'll see what happens. So thank you for coming out this evening. We'll make sure your calendar, October 28th is the date of the board meeting. So you'll be an agenda item, you'll be able to give a brief presentation as well. The full board will vote on that. But again, that's not necessarily exclusive of everything else. Any other comments, they can be forwarded to CBC.
Can I make a motion? I make a motion that the housing committee meet separately. Cause this is like really a very time consuming. 3 of us came out. I personally signed up to be on housing committee. I love getting together with ULURP, but housing committee has to do something and get themselves in order, so we need to have a separate housing committee. This is
I
not
think it should be
working.
considered, Fred. I think that there's so many agenda items. that We gotta go through all of it in a lot of detail. So we not have, in my head, I don't see how we can have a combined.
Can I say something?
Once
I
in a
think I'm the
while.
only board member here for housing. I mean, I didn't sign up to be on housing. I signed up to be on ULURP, but I'm on housing, and which is fine. But I'm the only board member here, and I think at the last one there wasn't many of us here either. So. Oh, no, I know you were here, and you were here, but I think it was just us.
So we have to clean up house.
Right, and so,
Housekeeping.
I don't mind the overlap, I guess, because I'm the only board member here. I mean, they're resident members. But yeah, I guess I would like to know more about how all of this works. So is there something that we could talk? Can I schedule?
We can, well, let me just make a couple, actually, if I can, before we adjourn. To that question, definitely we can talk offline about that. And definitely, again, I think I want everybody to understand, yeah, this is gonna be rough and we're going to learn as we go along. And there may be options where we will say, at some point, listen, land use has just got 19 things to take care of, or housing has got a certain amount of things we need to take care of, and that makes sense. But at the same token, I also want to make sure we take as many opportunities to see at what point it does make sense to keep us stay together and cross-pollinate. And the idea being, we're going to be able to evaluate this at some point. So what I'm just saying is, I'm sorry. So I'm saying is, let's have the conversations. I do want the feedback.
Is there elections?
Because
I thought that we were supposed to be.
we don't have housing committee doesn't have a quorum.
What about
So
your
we
lot?
I mean, I'm here. I'll sign
Okay,
up.
listen, if I can finish my point. So, all that, we will definitely make sure we're cleaning house, because I did have noticed there are a couple of people who have been absent times now. So we will have conversations that are necessary with that. And that's something we're gonna do across the board, because I do wanna, and I want to let you know, and that's a good segue. To the members of the housing committee, thank you very much, because again, this is your second time being here, and I honor and respect your time, and I wanna make sure that it is honored and respected going forward as well. So we will have conversations, sure, a quorum is not a conversation, or we'll have conversations to make sure people just say, maybe it's.
Okay, what about your elections? Are you supposed to do elections?
Before just a couple of more things, I didn't want to jump. And I'll leave it to the chair to finish out. One, I want to thank anyone who's in here this evening. And I think this was always part of the vision. When we're creating committee, one of the things that happens is it becomes difficult to say, well, you know what, I need one more piece. Oh, I need one more piece. Oh, I need one more piece. So you try and add the pieces you can to make sure you have that. It is, yes, my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, but you're just
But
saying
okay,
stuff.
and it's
It's not
else.
making
So
any
anyway,
sense.
the idea being, we put together the best team we can, we look around and we try and put that together. Is really what the vision is in terms of you have the committee, but the committee isn't by everyone who has come out this evening. So that has always been the mission, and with that as well. We're gonna keep doing this. Again, we just need to make sure that when we come, we'll respect we're doing this and we come with the ideas. One of the things we are going to do, and I've seen it this evening, is that we have work to do as a community to build a vocabulary. Because you know what, we're not on the same page. Some of us understand what R6s mean. Some of us are talking about secondary displacement. What does that mean? So we are going to be working and building a vocabulary as a committee, but as a community. So I hope everyone is going to join me in that mission in terms of making we can build that capacity. Because it's not going to be something that gets decided in this room. It's a matter of bringing a community into this conversation. And I would just ask for anybody who is here this time, welcome, thank you for coming, whatever reason was here. The only thing I would ask is, please on the way out, check with Mia. Mia Hilton is our assistant district manager. She's phenomenal. And just make sure you sign up on our list, because that gives us the opportunity to communicate with you directly. So that way you can get the information when we're having conversations, when these things are being done, if there's trainings. And in turn, what I ask is, tell a friend. So I know that you said that you're a part of a block association or a association. Are you in a church, or do you know anybody? Well,
Somebody else.
So anyway, but anyway, just, and I didn't mean to pick on your
It's
practice.
not my first time here.
No, well, if it's your first time, I'm sorry, maybe I picked
I
the
really
wrong.
get to look at the flash.
Okay. But let's ask that everyone, if you're connected in different places, please let people know that these meetings are happening. Because again, these are the places that we're having conversations, so it's important to get neighbors here. All right, so again, I thank everyone for coming. I thank everyone for the commitment you made to come out here. And
Okay, I have one final item, which I know some of you have been waiting for, and it's Vital Brooklyn. I want to show, there are like, 1, 2, 3, 4 huge developments coming up in Flatbush. They are, again, not ULURP actions. These are state developments on state-owned land, which means they can override zoning, not consulting us, so this never went through ULURP. Nevertheless, I think it's really important that we're aware of what's going on and that we advocate community in this regard. So I want to just go over what's happening already.
Did you call it vital?
Yes.
Non-vital purpose.
So, Unella, Hoover by Utica Avenue, sent me some pictures. The construction of that site is ongoing. It's like, I think they're gonna be 15-story buildings. It's already up to like 5. On Clarkson and between New York and Nostrand, that's another like 300-unit building. That's construction is already underway. Those won't be finished for probably like a couple of years. Cheryl, do you want to say about Kingsborough?
Well, it's actually 13 buildings within 5-block radius in my neighborhood. 13 buildings. One is a MICA shelter. MICA stands for mentally ill and chemically addicted. So that's drug addicts and mentally ill personnel. They're trying to go 12 stories up. The other one is a senior shelter, and which is going to also house former drug users. And the other one is a men's shelter, which we currently have. Currently have the men's shelter. They want to add, as they say, 4 other buildings that are affordable housing. They cannot give us any information on what will be put there yet. And then they want to put 2 sets of rows of houses that are 4 stories high. Presently, if you look on Zola, you can see at 703 Midwood an example of what 4 stories high. It's going to be a monstrosity in our neighborhood, and we're trying to fight it. Although it is a state land, we as the board can voice ourselves and voice our opposition to it. There's no parking involved. It's about 1,100 units. What's sad is that in Creedmoor, within it, you talk about disparate impact, ma'am. Creedmoor is also, everyone's familiar with Creedmoor? Mm-hmm. It was a mental facility, correct? There's no mentally ill, no MICA shelters, no shelters whatsoever will be over there, right? They have about 2,500 units will be built over 58 acres. But by us, they're putting 1,100 units over 7 acres. Can we do the math? 2,500 over 58 acres, and they have parking lots. No parking. They're giving us bike lanes. We're getting bike lanes. No parking. Bike racks, right. 1,100 units over 7 acres. See what they're putting in our area. It's a large amount of shelters. In addition to all that, that's 9. Then they're doing the other shelter, the one that they spoke about on Clarkson. That is going to be the youth aging out. They're going to be youth aging out. They're going to be foster care. It's going to be Horizon, Safe Horizon. Those are running from domestic violence unit. They're going to be former drug users. This is all that they're putting within a 5-block radius. 13 buildings. 13. When you hear on the news that other communities are coming out in drones for 1 building, they're putting 13, and it's across the street from me. So, we are as strong as our community board. I understand that they say this is state, but if we stand as a community, we can have a voice. Mentally ill, chemically addicted, they do not stay in the area. All y'all that live around here, they will be visiting you. I was outside talking to neighbors, trying to discuss what's going on. A guy walked by us while smoking his crack. He got down on all 4s and he drank the sewer water that was running. Oh my gosh. Here. We have that now. This is not when they come. This is what's there now. I have a video on my phone. A man pulled out all the wires from the traffic light. He sat there and he pulled all the wires out. I have a video of one. I videotaped him watching me. The same guy was there himself.
Sorry, Cheryl.
Yes, no problem, LaShawn. This is not something, and it's just what we have here now. We have the bike racks. The bikes, it's horrendous. All the e-bikes, they're all lined up, about 42 of them. They're changing. 47 at one time. They're changing makeup, and what makes it so bad is the area is on Albany, Clarkson, Winthrop. Presently, the men's shelter is on Albany and Albany and Winthrop. They're going to take the men's shelter now and put it into all the 2-family homes. Mind you, across the street from us, under our noses, they already built in 3 housing So now we have panhandling, we have the litter, the dumping. I cannot begin to explain to you what we have. This monstrosity that they want to build will affect everyone. Don't think they stay just across the street from me. It's not going to be nice.
So Cheryl, what is the timeline on this? Have they been permitted yet?
Well, they were around in January 2024, and I can proudly say that a group of community members got together. We have a website called saynotoless.org. If you look on that, you will see all the facilities. We got together and we attended the hearings. We sent emails. We sent letters. It has actually, one of the letters that I sent, it shows community, BK9. Guess what? In the whole of the 5 boroughs, the only borough that surpassed us, which was number 1, and the lowest response time of the police department was Bronx. So it was Bronx, an area in Bronx, and then it was BK9. I have that in my email. I took a screenshot and a snip, and I put it in my email as a opposition for the hearing. And guess what happened? They took it off the website. They took it off the website.
So let me ask you another question.
And I have it. I have it now. Anyone wants it, I can send it to you.
I just gotta jump in and say homeless people who need domestic violence shelters, men who need homeless shelters are being sued.
Not saying that they're not. Hold on. Did you hear what I said? I in New York State land, Creedmoor, that was a former mental facility, has no shelter. They are putting everything here. Then guess what? Let's share the wealth with the shelters. Saying, sir, we're saying let's share the wealth. You're putting everything in one location, the 2-family home, and over 50. Do the math. 58 acres. 58 acres.
For the humans.
58 acres.
We're talking about
Yes,
drinking off.
everyone needs shelters. Everyone needs to do their part in this. How are you going to take a New York State mental facility and put no mentally ill shelters there? Why is that? Why is that fair to put them on here? I'm not saying.
We should make sure there's balance. I hear what you're saying. I hear what
It's
you're
dense,
saying.
it's
I
too
hear what you're
much.
saying.
Let's share the wealth. Share the wealth. Even the audit showed that they are not fair with what they put.
We already have a
Let's,
lot.
we already have a lot.
Right, so the biggest concern, what I just want to add to that, is that you should not have, I cannot understand the thought process of having senior citizens
Oh, yeah.
with a MICA shelter within the same complex.
And a mental.
I don't see that. Because I said it
So
before.
what do you say for your senior citizens?
My mother be one,
Thank you.
and I'm not gonna drop her off, kiss her goodnight, and then hope for the best.
Senior shelter.
It's not gonna happen.
That actually was not the original plan for that site.
Correct.
So we have one more hand.
Doesn't make sense.
If I
could say something.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes,
As a 40-year resident of Crown Heights at least,
Yes.
trying to find a place to live again in this district, and as a senior citizen, we don't need anything called a shelter anywhere. We need permanent housing, and that means low-income housing. And we need to stop all these R's, and we need to change the vocabulary, that's for sure. We need to talk about low-income housing, and we're not doing it. And we're allowing these shelters to keep on building because there is no low-income housing. So more and more people are going to end up in these. I am now thinking, as a former professional person working in all these hospitals and all, of signing myself into a senior citizen shelter in the hope of being able to stay in this city where I'm determined to stay. I mean, you know, we have got to stop this joke. When we started out in Board 8 years ago, and people came to us with 20/80 deal, ran them out of the community.
Exactly.
There you go.
We don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore. And I do want to say that don't take anything out of your toolkit. Protest is essential. It doesn't have to be huge protest.
Right.
When we were fighting for the Franklin Avenue shuttle, the affected people were the children.
Yes.
And the chiefs in the schools cooperated. They took the children to the stations, and our best photographers in the neighborhood came out and took the best pictures you ever saw and sent them to the local newspapers, and those pictures were some of the most effective things. But those pictures would not have occurred if we hadn't had the small protests. Don't take anything out of your tool cabinet. But we do. I agree, Fred. We do have to change the vocabulary.
Can I just ask if you've had any meetings with elected officials on this? Because at this point, they're the only ones that could change significant aspects of the project.
Well, Brian Cunningham, we have tried to get town hall with town hall. So he had a town hall. The few that he did have, we were not allowed to speak about Vibrant Brooklyn. So he had a Brooklyn meeting. We voiced everything and how we felt, but it's just what changes are going to be made. So the only thing he told us, they have to build back the men's shelter because of the land where it is. But there's so many information about the land and the deed. There's an issue with the deed with the land. Okay, so the community board does have a stand where we can about what's going on, because this needs to be signed off by the city council, or by Letitia James, who stood there once and said that she knows that this community is being dumped on.
And have you heard
So
from
where,
Tish
no, we have, I've
She-
written
has she signed
email,
off on it?
no, they've not signed off on it yet, nothing has been done.
So
We're not hearing any elected official speak to us
So
about
I'm
it.
going to suggest, once again, that we write to the state elected officials, which is, it's Cunningham and Myrie, right?
Yeah.
Also, the councilwoman now, I think, is Rita Joseph.
I was gonna say,
It's not me, maybe.
the state senator is running for mayor, and that's a good point of leverage that you can bring up, because obviously it's gonna be something that he, as mayor, he would have to deal with, so.
Well,
there
I
might-
saw him coming out of downstairs, took a picture with him, he thought it was I was a groupie. I said, can I take a picture with you? I took the picture, and then I said, I was right in Brooklyn. And he said, well, why? He said, and don't tell me it's gonna change and make a community. I said, I've been trying to reach you for months.
So
I will
let's-
sit down with you and tell you.
Let's have them let's see if they're willing to come to the committee and, see if we have our asks. Let's have definite, definite things, is everybody agreed to that? Do we wanna invite them?
So give it for 1 minute. So the one thing we have done is we've actually reached out to the New York Economic Development Corporation, because I think there's a lot of information we don't have about what's going on.
ESD.
Sorry, Empire State Development. So we have reached out to them in terms of trying to get an update, what's the status, what's where. But I think important in the conversation as well is that the thing we need to make sure with whatever iteration of this comes through, it's not just a building project where it's like the concrete goes up, they cut the ribbon, everybody goes in, and then the city and the state walk away. There are services that need to be done, services that are happening now, because it's like all the things that you're going through, those are quality of life issues. That we can take care of right now, that's a conversation with NYPD, but that's another conversation. But there are people who should be responsible for that. If there are shelters that are in the neighborhood that are neighbors in terms of watching the clients the residents that are coming in, we need to have those conversations now about, you need to do something better about that, because part of what or at least this is what I've heard, and maybe I have to be correct about that, they're swapping stuff, so I think they're there now. All they're saying is they're building MICA when it comes back and when they finish building it. But if you don't have the services, and if we're not having it, we don't have everything wrapped around that, we're gonna continue having these problems, and it doesn't matter what they do, even if they said they took it away. So I'm making sure we are vigilant and making sure it's not just about the concrete, it's about all the resources that are supposed to be in CB9 to make sure that we're okay. So if it's between trash collection, if it's between parking, what the parking impacts are, if it's between making sure that the residents, who have mental health issues, there are supports that are in place and ways to have interventions if we need to. Those are the conversations that we need to have bubble up from land use, but as well as our health and social services and housing and everywhere as well.
So maybe we
I
add
couldn't even hear from them when it came to the hearing.
So maybe we add to that list, invite list as well.
And you need to get the federal people in here too, because that's where the money for shelters comes from. It's from the federal people, and they're not providing money for low-income housing.
No.
And they've not changed their ways, they've not learned anything from the failure of the shelter system that has gone bigger and bigger and bigger. So if you don't get the federal people in here, you're not much choices, because you're not gonna have the money to build low-income housing.
So we've got 2 letters we want the office to write, and we want them to post some notices.
Can I ask another
Yes.
request, Suki? Can we ask Dante at the New York City Law Department about the deed issue that was referred? Can we ask and inquire about that? Because there's an
Yes.
issue with the deed that, can we write a letter to New York law? Because we have not heard any answers about
Well,
that.
it's Tish James who's, is she supposed to make the decision on that?
She's supposed to sign off on it, but the city council also has,
I
a
see.
say in it as well.
So we can definitely send out that letter. For the final piece of Vital Brooklyn, I'm debating because it's late and also because Nelly's not here and Christine are not here, if I should wait, but there's a development on Rutland Road at Kingsbrook Jewish. John Wolfling is in that development, if I'm not mistaken. So since you're here tonight, I don't know if you give the update or wait until next time when Nelly and Augustine are here. I mean, I'd have to ask you to like,
I would have
get out of your
appreciated a
committee
heads,
seat
I would have
and
appreciated a
put on
heads up.
your-
So,
put
no,
on
I'm
your
not
developer
prepared
hat.
to,
But if you're not prepared,
you
we'll
wanna
do
call me a
next time.
developer or an architect?
But, I mean, the developers frequently send their architects, so in that respect, would be the
Refer to me
representative.
either as an architect or a community member, not a developer.
Well, you would be sitting in the developer seat as the developer's.
Man, you shouldn't ask them a question.
You should ask the developer to either show up at the meeting or have me represent them.
I mean, we certainly can do that, but since you didn't have the head up, maybe we'll do it next time.
Are we gonna vote the committee?
No, because that motion was ruled out already, Teresa.
No, I'm talking about like the chair, the treasurer, the secretary, you're supposed to do that at the first meeting, you haven't done that yet.
So Mia
So what if
has
you don't
always-
show up?
So Mia's been our secretary. We can vote on vice chair. It's late. I think we should do that next time at the beginning of the meeting.
Yes, I don't think we should, combine with housing, we should do our due diligence, we should at the very beginning. What the heck's going on? This is like, this is organized.
So, yeah, it's super late.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
let
do it at the
everybody
beginning
go.
of next
It's gonna be the beginning of next meeting.
The beginning of next meeting, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah,
motion
no, we-
adjourned.
Second.
Thank you, everybody, for staying.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I don't, I know where it is.
Bye, Mom.
Do you need help
Okay.
holding chairs?
I think I left mine and you have
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I'll run it to the folks from TV. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Give me a couple. Yeah. I go to a lot of places. Good to see you, Connie.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see the process. I learned about our private marginally, so it was more like my fear to like use it, but landmarks, the staff always like supportive, and so they sent us a template, so I just kind of worked on it, but I didn't know how to do it. But I figured,
I just know that
So hopefully you guys will be able to.
boards are not finding a way to fulfill
that's what he was
their
talking about.
stated mandate. Needs of the community, not the needs of the development.
It was interesting. I was super involved in the fight against Atlantic Center. So I had my heart broken. Yeah, so I give you guys a lot of credit for keeping
That's
on.
Empire State Development. They will just roll right over you. They just, here's
The amount of money in there. I don't know if you ever saw the video of the hearing. They cost people land. It was literally the combo. You would like, you'd be like, we would.
Middle school.
The Franklin Avenue development, they brought in like hundreds of communities.
Yeah, they did that. There were laws that came that caused the first hearing because they put in a group of kids that were like shouting horrific things against like Tish James. She was one of those leaders, and then the leaders tried to intervene, but then the government tried to intervene. It was layers of You're just like, wow.
And then now the parent, they have to go close to midterm, right? And they're about to go, they're claiming they're gonna go bankrupt if they don't get another upzoning.
Oh, one thing I was thinking about, I don't know that it matters because they fight everything every which way. But you know, all these developers are asking for more, or saying they can't do it unless you give them upzoning. They have more money they're talking about their interest rates. I mean, this is huge. Big. I mean, I just feel like the saga of the economics is.
Yeah, the stories are stories, they'll build lies and suffer fusion.
Yeah.
You can't really, every developer.
But we thought we had them with Sid, Fire, companies, all that stuff. And then it just went even faster. We're like, wait, what?
Sour.
Yeah.
I look at that tower and I just think like the opposite stuff.
Yeah. It's maybe, you know, like, no one's gonna live there. Yeah. But yeah, for Green 5, tower going up, and then another one, something's in Green and Carlton, and they've got it down, and it's really going up. But then we got to run so
Hopefully, that's fingers crossed.
yeah, but I was thinking, you know, we gotta get people that are very others from other horrible housing. I mean, how, like, should I think half of our class is here, this is what they live for.
Definitely encourage
Yeah, I feel like they're not as excited as.
Yeah, I was told from the start, get used to losing.
Yeah, no, but I think you guys will do that. So, thank you.
Thank you for coming out, and I hope to see you as the general.
Yeah.
Quick point just on the associated parking and traffic. I would be interested, at least to understand, what is the traffic pattern going to be, what is it expected to be? Because right now, because you can't go down Montgomery, right? Is that Montgomery?
Yeah.
Okay, so it does go west to east. You go that left way, and then turn into a park. You come down, so if you're coming down from so you come down Mill Street, turn left on Montgomery, right on the
Well, we got this one, so we got this one.
from New York. You got turn either on Melbourne or turn left on Empire and turn right. But you can't turn right on because it goes down just one way. So you have to go.
Empire, and then there's.
No, actually. So you'd have to go. You had to go back up.
Anybody missing a bike helmet?
I will know that in about 5 minutes.
But the numbers of cars that we were seeing from the companies to that intersection were super low, and that's why they said there wasn't going to be a big issue. But now that I'm hearing that that's parking for the supermarket as well as the residential, I'm like, no freaking way. That there's going to be a constant traffic jam in that spot because it's really narrow.
You know who really needs to go? Buggy. That'd be the enforcement, because the street is wider, but Buggy, it's all no standing there. No one should actually be back there.
It's a bit.
It's no standing all the way down if you don't park it.
But they're all parked all the way down.
I think we're still.
Yeah, they have to go. That's the thing. If they're gonna clear it out and pave it, they actually have to do like a series of steady enforcement over like a series of a month.
The whole way down.
It's cars
right
with
through to
fenders
Empire.
missing, bumpers missing.
I think we're still live.
Oh.
Well, so we have a lot of
Hi, good night, guys.
Too bad there's not a precinct nearby, you know.
So we asked the office for 3 things. They want to